I guarantee you there's thousands of shots that you have no idea are laced with visual effects. They're so good and they're so subtle.
I'm Chris Romrell. I'm one of the stunt coordinators of Terminal List Dark Wolf.
I'm Thom Williams, one of the other stunt coordinator and second unit director, and we are going behind the scenes of the Terminal List Dark Wolf.
We knew that we were going to hit this block of action set pieces that was absolutely going to get us swamped if we didn't get ahead of it. So we started these conversations really early. We want to show these operators and highlight them and their tactics in the way that they're done in real life. And so our technical advisors, Ray Mendoza and Jared Shaw and Max Adams are kind of our gurus, and they will block out a lot of these scenes according to the tactics. So in episode 4, the tunnel sequence, the convoy hit, how would you approach this convoy hit? Where would you hit them at? So even locations were chosen based on, what's the best way to plan this out? And then they would map out the good guys route according to how they would play out those tactics. And we spent weeks in a parking lot taped out to the measurements of the actual location with how many stunt guys did we have? We had like 20
to 30.
And just mapped it from top to bottom so everybody knew their positioning inside, outside, sideways, back to back, so that we could run it from top to bottom with no hiccups, including all the car work, so that Liz Freelander, our director for the episode, could come in and film it at a oner. And we even took a half day off of shooting for main unit to get the DP, David Stockton, and Kenny, our first camera operator, and Liz out there and the higher ups to come and watch the whole sequence and work out all the kinks, the decisions that need to be made on the day, so that by the time we got to shooting, it was just on rails.
Shout out to one of our producers, Nicholas Stern. He helped facilitate all that. Nicholas, along with producing, has a performance background from back in the day, so he understands what we need. And he understood that in order to get this right, especially with it being a oner for a good portion of it, that we had to get the actual camera team in there. We had to get our actual director. And to see a production shut down principal photography for half a day to come in and rehearse is almost unheard of. But they did what they needed to do to make sure everything was going to look awesome.
So, according to the tactics, what you'd want to do, right, is you want to hit them at a choke point. A natural choke point would be this tunnel. So the idea is they maybe blockaded the road somewhere else with a distraction, kind of funneled them into here where they have a preset distraction. You have Rafe and Landry loading up a car wreck and they're stuck there. And just as they're kind of beginning to question this, that's when our team comes and hits them, flanks them from the side from a hidden access tunnel. The location was almost built based on the tactics of what you would actually want to do. So that's how authentic we were trying to be with this.
You have an amazing visual effects team that helps out with that. So they had a couple different windows for that gag. In story mode, Ben's shotgun, you remember he's crushing up all the spark plugs. So when you shoot ceramic into something like that, it's gonna crack it and weaken it, and then he hits it to knock it the rest of the way out. But realistically, with the actor, with Luke sitting right inside there, you couldn't blow the window right in his face. So Jay Worth, our visual effects supervisor, and his team really did a phenomenal job helping out with that, making it look very realistic. The toughest part, which is also one of my favorites, is when they're all moving back into the tunnel, and there's a spot where you see Taylor, Ben, about to take off running. And what ended up happening is our camera guy, Kenny, he's on Steadicam, following everyone, and he has to run backwards, leading them, and the grips are helping him get onto a cart. They're locking him in, he's wearing a harness, so then the cart can lead Ben down the tunnel. I love the whole thing, because you're leading him in, he runs off camera, you see Rafe, then you see Eliza, then Ben comes back in, then you lead him back again, and then they're on the cart and Taylor's sprinting down the tunnel. There's bullet hits going off everywhere. Technically, that one, I think, correctly, Chris took the most rehearsal. Still worth it because I think it turned out beautiful.
Taylor Kitsch is in an all-out sprint there. He's booking it, and he's a fast dude. And that was very important to us, really capture that desperation of how inundated they are. Like, they got to get out of there. And I think that it really added to the energy. But getting that right was important. One thing that was really important to us was to build out this sequence where it wasn't just mindless shooting, that every shot hit somebody. We didn't want it to feel like they were just machines and all the guys coming in were just stormtroopers missing all their shots and falling down. And we wanted each room to have its own specific chapter and feel fresh. So we kind of broke it down into sections. First, they got to just get out of that room. And then the larger element starts to fold in. and they got to find a way out. They're trapped. So we get the trapped point, and now they got to fight their way out of this hole that they found themselves in. Each section, we took a lot of care to make sure we were doing it right, because in the sequence like this, it could easily become something that we were trying to avoid, which is very Hollywood. You know, how do you make it look authentic that these two guys survive this giant force coming in on them? And so that took a long time. We spent weeks in that location, really breaking it down and stressing over each point. Part of that was the choreography of it. And also a large part of that is just having Taylor Kitsch, because he is such an incredible action actor. He was just down to do it all and really get in it and throw himself up into spaces that, you know, a lot of actors would avoid. They would maybe use their double there. He was incredible. He brought an intensity to that scene, and we were able to really make things look a lot rowdier than they actually were.
Taylor's a hockey player. He's a ball man. He will go. He's got great body awareness, so he picks up choreo super easy.
His fingerprints is all throughout.
Everyone called it benifying the situation. He would be like, hey, I want to benify this a little bit. And he would come up with great ideas. Chris and I were talking about this the other day. The one thing that he did in there, and I think this came from a conversation with him and Jared Shaw, is how he would react to that 9-banger going off and exploding. And it's this real subtle little thing where he opens his mouth and exhales as it's going off to help the pressure not overwhelm him. And it's one of those things that pretty much only operators and military people are going to understand, but it's a really cool just little nugget that he throws in there because he cares about the character so much.
The first call I ever had with Taylor Kitsch was about this very set piece, because I knew this was in pre-production. I knew that this was going to be a major thing, and I wanted to get his feeling on it. He was the one who really was pushing from the very beginning. He's like, I want to make sure that Ben takes a beating in this. He should not get a free pass in here. It should be really hard for him to get out. I want to get the beat out of me.
One of my favorite things, because Chris came up with this, was when he charges the big dude as they're leaving that room and they hit that big column. And that was one of our local stunt dudes, Jula Talk. So as he drives Jula into the thing, and without missing a beat, Jula shifts his weight and just hunks him to the ground. And I remember as Chris was choreographing all this, I came in and watched that day, and I was just like, I mean, it was one of my favorite parts of the whole thing because it just looks so damn cool.
So that particular throw was done with his double, Quinn McPherson. There's certain things that Taylor absolutely can do, but you know, as a stunt coordinator, we shouldn't let him do it. And so that was definitely one of those things. But when he's getting slammed up against the walls and stuff, that's Taylor. Any spot that we could put him in conceivably, he was in. And that adds such a huge layer of the authenticity. You want to see his face going through it.
We have little tricks to help take care of everyone. We'll work with our production design department. Hey, let's put a rug here so we can put a really low dense hat underneath, or even have the floor built out of high density foam in some cases and have it painted to look like a floor. Things like that have come a long way in helping not just the stunt department, but the actors be able to get a little more into the action, you know, hit the ground and it's not going to be wood. You got a nice foam backing there. From the very beginning, Chris and I sat down with Jared Shaw and Paul Cameron, who was our director for that episode, had several powwows, what we wanted to do. And then Chris and I got to go into the production design area. They pulled everything up on CAD, computer aided design, and then we actually got to actively participate in designing the room. So we're like, hey, this is what we want to do the fight. They're going to go from here to here to here. Let's put a fridge right here, make the side of it safe. We basically designed that apartment to what we wanted to do, which is not often the case. Usually you're presented with a set and be like, here, figure this out. But this show, from Dave DiGilio on down, is so collaborative. They really, really wanted Chris and I's input on everything. And I can't tell you how much that helped build not only this, but all the sequences. And this one in particular, because it was, yes, very, very crowded in there, but we wanted it to feel kind of claustrophobic, especially as how big Ethan is. He takes up a lot of the space. So having him against someone like Shiraz, you want it to be kind of creeping in on her the whole time. That was my arm. I doubled Ethan for a number of years. He's an old friend of mine. So as soon as he was cast, I'm like, I'm going to double Ethan one more time. This is going to be fun. I've been working out, getting ready, and our fantastic Hungarian stunt woman, Judith, who was doubling Shiraz in there, we'd been rehearsing this. So yeah, she has me in an arm bar, and I just pick her up, swing her like a baseball bat into the fridge. It's got high dense foam on the side. She went face first into it, didn't put up her hands to protect herself. She is a baller and one of our favorite stunt people we had over there.
You know, if we were going to go through something, we wanted to kind of break people's expectations of what that could be.
That was a build on stage, and we were slightly elevated, but definitely not, 7 stories up. And then our amazing, again, visual effects department took care of the rest. Since we were inside, we decided to keep everything safe. That would also allow us to use Ethan and his actual face. Again, I can't say enough about Jay Worth and our visual effects team. Everything they did on the show, I guarantee you there's thousands of shots that you have no idea are laced with visual effects. They're so good and they're so subtle and such an amazing addition to what we do and allowing us to keep people safer with their addition. Most people probably aren't going to realize how much Shiraz and Ethan did of that fight. So the hard hits, the hit onto the balcony, the hit coming onto the fridge, coming back in, going, head and back first into the center island, that's me and Udit. And we would tag in a little bit, like I'd fight Shiraz a little here and there and she'd fight Ethan. But 90 to 95% of that fight was Shiraz and Ethan because they trained their asses off. They came in and rehearsed for like 2 weeks and just really dialed it in. And it's so important that they did that much of it because they were able to play off of each other. We had the cameras on their faces and you could really feel the emotion from both of them just washing over the camera.
Chris and Thom, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you and learning all about how these different scenes were put together and created. So thank you both so much. I really appreciate it.
Dude, thank you, Michael, very much.